There's a moment, maybe you felt it, when you're talking, explaining, expressing, and suddenly you feel like no one in the room really hears you. Not just your words, but you. And in that quiet ache, you start wondering, why do I want so badly to be understood? This isn't just about communication. This is about existence. From childhood, we're wired to reach for connection. A toddler doesn't just cry for food. They cry to be seen, to be held, to be felt. As we grow up, we stop crying. But the need doesn't go away. It hides behind how we dress, what we post, who we chase, the words we leave unsaid. We shape our entire identity around being understood. But here's the twist. What if the person you want to understand you doesn't even exist? Maybe it's a version of your parents that could finally listen, a lover who could read between the silences, or maybe it's you, hoping the world will validate something you don't even fully know about yourself. The truth is, most people don't want to be understood. They want to be understood without having to explain, without having to be vulnerable, without the risk of being judged. And that makes it even lonelier. Because when you do explain, and they still don't get it, that's a different kind of heartbreak. In this video, we're going deep into the psychology, the fear, the emotional survival strategies, and most importantly, the freedom that comes when you stop begging to be understood and start understanding yourself. Let's break something open here. The need to be understood isn't just emotional, it's survival-based. Think about it. If people don't understand you, you feel alone. And when you feel alone, your brain sees that as danger. Because deep inside, we are still that ancient human trying not to be left behind by the tribe. So, what do? We start to perform. We edit ourselves. We filter our feelings. We speak in ways that are easier to digest. We downplay what hurts, exaggerate what sounds cool. We become actors in our own life, just to be accepted. And every time someone misunderstands us, it feels like a small rejection, a little emotional death. Like, damn, maybe they're not my people after all. But here's the heavy part. Sometimes we don't even understand ourselves. We say we want someone to get us. But if they asked, what exactly do you want them to understand? You'd probably go silent. We're waiting for someone to unlock a part of us we haven't even looked at. And here's where it gets dangerous. When we chase understanding from the wrong people, it hurts more. We give pieces of ourselves to people who don't have the emotional tools to carry them. And when they drop those pieces, we feel broken. Not because they didn't care, but because we handed over a part of our soul, hoping it would make them stay. But maybe the goal isn't to be understood by everyone. Maybe it's to stop expecting the world to meet you at a depth they've never explored in themselves. Maybe being misunderstood isn't a failure. Maybe it's a sign you're finally being honest. Here's where we often get it twisted. Attention is not the same as understanding. Likes on your post, replies to your story, people laughing at your joke, someone texting you, "I miss you." It feels like connection, but sometimes it's just noise. Because someone can see your face every day and still not know your soul. They can watch your content, hang out with you, even say, "I get you," and still have no idea what storm you're holding back at 2 a.m. You know what's worse? Sometimes, the closer someone gets, the less they understand, because they stop asking. They think they've figured you out. So, they start responding to the version of you they made in their head, not the real you who's still evolving, still hurting, still hiding things you don't have words for. And we begin to shrink into that mold, afraid to say, "That's not me anymore." Afraid that if we change, they'll leave, because maybe they didn't love you. They loved the idea of you. That's why this need to be understood is so layered. It's not just, "I want to be known," it's, "I want someone to know me, even when I don't know how to explain myself." even when I'm messy, confused, contradictory, even when I grow out of who I used to be. And deep down, isn't that what we all want? To be loved without performance, to be seen without translation, to be held without needing to earn it. But here's the truth. Most people don't say out loud. You might never be fully understood by anyone, and that's not your fault. It might actually be your freedom. You ever look in the mirror and feel off? Like you're staring at yourself, but you're not sure who's actually looking back? That's not just about appearance. It's a soul thing. See, a huge part of why we want others to understand us is because we're trying to see ourselves through their eyes. We crave validation not because we're vain, but because we're lost. We hope that if someone else can explain us, define us, love us, then maybe we'll finally know who we are. It's like borrowing someone else's mirror to see our own reflection. But that mirror's always tilted. It reflects their opinions, their expectations, their wounds. And the longer we depend on others to reflect us, the blurrier our inner world becomes. That's how people end up building entire identities on what others like. Aesthetic, personality, dreams, curated for applause. Because being misunderstood feels like a failure. So we trade authenticity for approval. But here's the tragedy. Even when you shape yourself into the perfect image for them, they still might not get you. Not because you're too much, but because they were never trying to understand you. They were just trying to relate to their own version of you. So now you're stuck, performing a role you didn't audition for. And it eats away at your soul, one silent compromise at a time. Understanding isn't found in echo chambers. It's not built in filters or followers. It's not hiding in someone's compliment or comment section. Understanding starts when you stop outsourcing your reflection, when you sit with the uncomfortable silence of your own mind and ask, who am I? When no one's watching, that's where the real mirror is. Not on screens, not in someone's words, but in stillness. And it's scary, but it's the only place where truth begins. So, let's strip it all the way down. Why do we really want to be understood? Is it connection, validation, comfort? Sure. But beneath all of that, there's fear. Fear of being alone in our head forever. Fear that if no one gets us, we'll never truly belong anywhere. Fear that we'll be misjudged, labeled, or left behind. Because no one stuck around long enough to decode us. This fear grows quietly. It hides in our choices, in what we post, what we say, what we don't say. Sometimes we overshare not because we're open, but because we're desperate for someone to say, hey, I feel that too. Other times, we go silent. Not because we're private, but because we've been misunderstood so many times. We've learned to protect our truth by hiding it. And here's the kicker. Even when someone does try to understand us, we often don't let them. Why? Because we're afraid they'll get close and still walk away. So we sit in this strange in-between, yearning to be seen but terrified of being too visible. This is the paradox of wanting to be understood. We think it will fix us, but sometimes it only exposes our most fragile parts, and not everyone deserves access to that. So maybe the real question isn't, why don't they understand me? Maybe it's, why do I believe I need to be understood to be whole? Because once you start healing that belief, you begin building a sense of self that doesn't collapse every time someone misunderstands you. And that is power. Something wild happens when you stop begging to be understood. You start understanding yourself. You become your own translator, your own interpreter. You start noticing your patterns, calling out your own self-sabotage, and realizing that half of what you thought were other people's problems were just your unspoken expectations. You see, we've been taught to look outward. Find your tribe. Find someone who gets you. Find the one. But here's the shift. The one who needs to get you first is you. And the irony? Once you do, once you genuinely start knowing your mind, your triggers, your values, you won't feel such a strong need to explain yourself all the time. Because now, silence isn't rejection, it's reflection. Now, being misunderstood doesn't break you. It reveals who's willing to look deeper. You'll speak less, but when you do, your words will land heavy because they're no longer filtered for approval. They're anchored in truth. That's when real connection shows up. Not because you demanded it, but because you created space for it. You stop performing and start being. And guess what? That version of you, the raw, unpolished, self-aware version, that's the one people feel most drawn to. Not because you're loud or perfect, but because you're real. The journey of being understood by others actually begins with being deeply honest with yourself. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's quiet, internal, a silent revolution of self. And in that stillness, you realize you were never waiting to be seen. You were waiting to wake up. You've spent so long trying to be understood, you forgot to ask, by whom? Not everyone is meant to understand you. Not everyone is capable of it. And that's not a reflection of your worth. That's just a mismatch in depth. Think of it like this. You've been writing in poetry, but expecting people who only read headlines to get the full meaning. Some people won't read past your cover. They'll misquote your soul. They'll skim through your emotions like they're just another trending story. And you'll keep rewriting yourself for an audience that was never meant to understand you, just consume you. So here's your invitation. Stop performing for the wrong crowd. Start speaking to the ones who pause, who listen not just to respond, but to feel. Speak to those who see you in moments you're not trying to be seen. Because the truth is, you were never too complicated. You were just too rare for surface-level conversation. And when you stop begging to be understood by everyone, you make room for the few who do get you effortlessly. This is the new script. You don't explain your soul to every passerby. You don't unpack your past for people who haven't earned your present. You live fully, unapologetically. Even if no one claps, even if no one gets it. Because your story isn't a performance, it's a process. And the people meant to be part of it, they'll find their way into your pages, not because you screamed your truth, but because you lived it. You've made it here, to the end. Not just of the video, but maybe of a version of yourself that constantly chased validation like it was oxygen. But you're breathing just fine now, aren't you? Let's be honest. The desire to be understood isn't weak. It's deeply human. But when that desire starts writing your identity for you, you lose your power. So here's a shift. Instead of asking, why doesn't anyone understand me? Ask, have I truly understood myself? That's where the healing begins. That's where your story turns from noise into signal, from seeking to serving, from performing to becoming. Because someone somewhere right now is struggling with the same silent war you've been through. And they're waiting, not for a savior, but for a signal. You can be that, not by being perfect, not by being loud, but by being real. And here's your mission, the master move. Drop a comment, not for clout, but for connection. Write a message to your past self, the version of you that felt invisible, misunderstood, lost in noise. Say what you needed to hear back then, because someone else is scrolling in that exact headspace, and your words might hit like a lighthouse in their storm. This isn't just a video, it's a mirror, a journal, a conversation, and maybe a beginning. So if this made you feel seen, share it with someone still trying to find themselves. Not for views, for echoes. Because being understood starts here. When we start echoing truth instead of noise.